Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. I am Tony Lynch. I am your host, and again, we have an amazing guest for you guys. This woman is truly amazing. When she tell you her story, you guys are really going to understand why I say that. Now, before we get started, if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor. Head over to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time we drop a new episode. And before I bring on my guests, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. And if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer those as we go along. Now, without further ado, please help me welcome my guest, Elaine Lindsay, to the show. Elaine, how you doing?
Hi there. I'm great. How are you?
I am doing well. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me as your guest. I appreciate it.
The honor is mine. The honor is mine. So before we get into your story, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Okay, I'm Elaine Lindsay. I am originally from Scotland, but I live in Canada. I have a podcast called Suicide Zen Forgiveness. And on my show, we have guests share their stories of suicide loss, ideation, and mental health. The reason for that, here in my story, I lost a dear friend, and my mission is to end the silence, the stigma, and the shame surrounding suicide loss, ideation, and mental health, because we lose way too many people every day.
Yeah, we do. Well, first, I want to say thank you for the work that you do. Such important work, and coming from someone who used to struggle with suicidal ideation, you know, uh, and almost came close, almost came really, really close. And somehow I couldn't tell you how I pulled myself out of it, but I did. And I started changing the way that I thought about things. And, now I serve other people, especially the men in our societies, to help them understand that what we think and those things like that are totally normal, especially after dealing with trauma and loss and all of those different things. Um, and my heart goes out with you. You said that you lost a friend to suicide. Can you can you explain to us what has changed in society to bring about this increase?
Certainly. One thing I want to say is thank you so much. It is really critical that we help our men because one of the highest demographics that are at risk are men 45 to 64,
Hmm.
which I think is absolutely horrific. And part of that speaks to our generation. I'm a baby boomer. I'm 68 years old. So I got through childhood and what have you with the men being strong and men don't cry and they don't show weakness and blah, ad nauseum, and I have to say at 13 years of age, we were at home in Scotland and I don't even know what happened. I just know in the middle of the night, my mom and dad were sitting on the edge of the bed and I heard my father crying and it completely changed how I felt about my father. I didn't know what to feel. I didn't know my hero was sitting crying and I didn't know how to process that at 13. Something else that nobody knew then, I've had suicidal ideation since I was a little kid. Didn't know it had a name, didn't have a label for it. I just knew that it didn't matter whether I burned the toast or got a bad report card or something really traumatic happened. One of the options on the table for me was always, well, I can just end it. Never put those words into the world because my generation, baby boomers, came through a time where there was a song that was about going to the mental institution. They're coming to take me away, ha ha, hee hee, ho ho, to the funny farm where life will be beautiful all the time. It's horrible to think back, being 12 and hearing that.
Mm,
And furthermore, I worked in a giant facility, which was called a mental institution back then. And I saw firsthand that things like electroshock therapy and other modalities were used, I hate to say with abandon, but frighteningly regularly.
mm,
And that too made me keep everything inside. I actually, when I was 15, met a boy that I took the bus to school with who was in a home for wayward boys up until that summer. And then they moved him to the mental facility because they didn't know where else to put him. He changed over that summer, and I came to understand that if you put people in a group, we as humans tend to go to the lowest common denominator. We don't all work to be the smartest person in the room. We work to be the same as the lowest in the room.
mm.
And that too shut me up. So, with that in mind, I'm going to give kind of a quick rundown on some of the trauma in my life. And then you can ask the questions and we'll unpack the ones that you want to unpack in whatever order.
Okay.
16 years of age, I lost my friend Andrea to suicide. 4 years later, when I was 20 years old, I was crushed between three cars on a highway at 2:30 in the morning in the winter. I lost part of my leg. I was 6.5 months pregnant and lost my child. I had multiple fractures. I fractured my skull. I had all kinds of internal injuries, and the next 5 years was spent recovering. In 1982, I had my son. I already had a daughter, and I had lost a daughter. In 1982, I was 26 years old. I was thrilled about finally having this second child now who was born and stayed alive, which was great. But because of the accident when I was 20, I had put on weight and I was so unhappy with myself. To be honest, I hated me, absolutely hated me. And when we put out to the universe, when we're looking for confirmation for whatever it is, be it good, be it bad, whatever we're looking to confirm, the universe will give us that confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
So late in 82, my son was a few months old. We were with the family at a restaurant. I was in the washroom and I was washing my hands at the sink, and this woman came up behind me and looked me in the eye in the mirror. And she said, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful. Why are you fat?" For me, that was the confirmation I needed because I hated me so bad. I had heard about some surgery called a vertical banded gastroplasty. And I, against the wishes of everyone in my family, booked the surgery. I didn't know the surgeon was already under investigation for killing two people, and I was the third. We can talk about that one later. Things got progressively worse. Through him and three surgeries later, I found myself feeding through a tube in my side, which lasted for over a year. And he had another surgeon come in and slit my throat. So he had diverted my esophagus out my neck. That's not normal.
No. Mm-mm.
In that third surgery, he was trying to cover his tracks by taking everything apart. You see, I only had my stomach stapled for 20 days, but I didn't learn that for 12 years. Life got pretty bizarre, and in all honesty, I became a victim, and I was not a nice person. I was constantly on the defensive because here I was, missing part of my leg, having lost children, not understanding who I was. And mentally, I had gone back to being 12 years old when Andrea died. My accident happened right in front of Andrea's grave. And I believe she's the reason I'm still sitting in front of you today because Her having taken her life left us, me specifically, wondering every time I came close, and believe you me, there were many, many times. I've even had my stomach pumped with charcoal. Every time in the back of my head, Andrea said, "You know what it feels like to be one left behind. Do you really want to do this?" And that brought me back from the brink most times. The charcoal incident, I think, scared me enough that it didn't happen again. I still deal with ideation, but I manage it way better. It's so much easier when you know what something is, then you can learn how to deal with it. Things came to a head, and the reason that you're seeing someone who's always smiling and in a good mood is because in 1997, the universe decided that obviously 3 cars wasn't enough to hit me with. They needed to get my attention. We were walking after being in a restaurant. We were walking back to our car. The gentleman was not paying attention and was backing out of his spot. And I knocked on his car. And the next thing we know, he got out of the car and started screaming and swearing at us, myself, my daughter, my son, and my granddaughter. And we told him to go away and kept walking to our car. He got in his car and came after us, tried to run down my children. I stepped in the way, and he drove backwards with me on his car after he'd hit my legs. People in the parking lot surrounded the car, and I slid to the ground. When the ambulance arrived, I was so concerned with not taxing the paramedics by having to pick me up that I struggled to put myself on the stretcher. And the paramedics said, "This is our job. We do this all the time." But I was so in my head. I was being such a complete idiot and being so shallow. When I got into that ambulance, there was suddenly this aha moment. And all I could think was, good God Almighty, there must be more to life than this. I go from one calamity to the next. Never thought of the word trauma back then. Things just kept going from bad to worse. And there were good times in there, but when you're in pain 24/7, you don't think about that. But as I lay there, my hand kept doing this, and I kept thinking, oh my God, I'm the common denominator. I'm what's putting all this out there. There's got to be more. And the universe kind of went, oh, duh, took you long enough. And I got into every book I could possibly read. I found myself a spiritual mentor. I learned to meditate and visualize. I eventually got off a ludicrous amount of narcotics to manage the pain, and I manage it much better with very little and lots of meditation and visualization. I've learned that I'm the captain of this ship.
Mhm.
Every day is a gift, and every moment that I choose to have a good day is a good day. I'm not telling you that things don't go wrong, because they do. Okay, all kinds of things go wrong. What you have to do, allow yourself sometimes a little time to wallow. Have a little pity party. Then get over it. Move on with life. Because if you just look in front of you, first thing in the morning, you're breathing. You can get out of bed. Whether that's a struggle or not doesn't matter. The fact is, you're breathing, and there are people who are not. You're better off. If you make a list of gratitudes, if you can put it all together every day, all the things that you are grateful for, I tell you every day, there are more. There are more and more things to be grateful for. And I'm a work in progress. I surely don't get it right all the time, but I'm happy to do the work.
I love that. And I love the fact that you said that you're a work in progress, because I was, before you said, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, when you said that you had lost your first child and got hit by that car, because we talked about this before, and hearing it again, I'm just like, holy crap, man. I would, like, I guess my thought would be, like, enough of this crap, right? I want to be done with this as well, like so many things. But I love the fact that you said, once you realize where the common denominator was, you were able to go back in and make those mental changes and begin, and you got stronger and you begin to understand, there were certain, there was things that you could do to kind of balance out your day. Now, I'm going to go back um, to a part of my journey because I think it's kind of relatable. When I was in my dark place, right, I couldn't see the gratitude in it. It was so hard for me to appreciate life on that level. And Elaine, to be honest with you, I had convinced myself, I literally convinced myself that it was the best thing for it was me not being here was the best thing for the world. And I compared that to my past, the things I had done. And I wasn't a perfect person. I was full of flaw. I did my fair share wrong. Lord knows I did. So, being in present day, I was like, you know what? I really don't have anything. So, it's not like I have a home to go to. I'm homeless. It's not like, anybody's going to miss me. I mean, look at everything that's going on, right? I've already lost my parents. It's not like, I don't have a younger brother anymore. I don't have my son anymore. So in my mind was, well, if this is the way that it needs to be, I would rather have control over my own life than to allow someone else that control, because it always felt as if I was being controlled. And talking with other men, and I do talk to them in their darkest moments, there's a similarity across the board. I want to get your thoughts on that.
That that darkness. Well, first I want to address something you said. You said you weren't perfect. Guess what? There are no perfect humans because if there were, there'd only be two of them. So get that one right off the table now. Okay, there just aren't. If you believe in Adam and Eve, that was the two. Enough, done. We're not meant to be perfect. How can you learn if you're perfect?
Mhm.
Okay, the whole point of life is to learn, and humans by nature are comparative. You can't know tall unless you know short. You can't know cold unless you know hot. All of these things are all the markers that allow us to know what's going on around us and in our lives. And for men who have for generations been taught to be stoic and it's all about you being tough, you taking the reins, you being in charge, you bringing home the bacon. The women tended the fire as far back as the caveman, and the men went out and got the buffalo. That was what you were supposed to do.
Mhm.
And we have never, ever been taught about our emotions, been taught about our thoughts. And like my friend Rex Sykes says, we've never been given any instruction or understanding of our brain. Our brains, our feelings, and our thoughts are the most important things in our lives. That's
Mhm.
the building blocks of your life. And we get absolutely no instruction, none at all. Kids are left to their own devices. And the fact is, if I had had, or if you had had some understanding when we were children that there are all types of feelings and they're not bad, Anger's not bad. It can be very useful for motivation. Grief is not bad. It is part of the life cycle. When people get old and die naturally, we grieve not so much because they're gone, but because we're left behind.
Mm.
And that, I think, is harder for the men who were supposed to protect us. The human mind, I don't think, has an understanding of people leaving. It's just not, it just doesn't compute, if you will. So the feelings that go along with that don't make any sense. And I want to touch on something actually from early in my story that I only recently learned exactly how to sort of frame. But when my friend Andrea died, I didn't handle it well. Again, I had no understanding of feelings. I had been dealing with ideation since I was probably, I don't know, 5 or 6. And all I knew in my head was, it was like high alert. Okay. It's like, keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything to anybody. You've got to, oh my God, you've got to hide. You've got to hide. They're going to put you away. That was kind of what was happening in my head. So I did, in fact, go away. I stopped maturing. I stopped everything and went back to being 12 because I had no responsibilities. I didn't have to make decisions. I didn't have to learn about anything. And I stayed that way till probably just a few years ago when I understood I had vacated this building of my body that I live in,
Mm.
completely vacated. I never understood finances or money or any of those things because they weren't relatable to that 12-year-old. And the funny thing is, for all those years, I have a very bent sense of humor and I make jokes quite often inappropriate at my expense, always. But that sense of humor has taken me through so much. And for decades, I would say, oh, I'm X amount of years old, but don't worry about it because mentally I'm 12. And I never understood why. Why did I say 12? And now I not only understand, but we have gone through and I have cleared up and healed all those pieces.
Right.
So God help me, now I have to mature. Well, maybe.
Look, I'm right there with you, right? I'm a Toys R Us kid through and through, right? You know what I'm saying? No one
Yes.
ever told me I had to grow up. I
Oh,
totally agree with what you said. There we have no blueprint. I
no.
remember when I was younger, my mama used to always tell me, boy, act your age and not your shoe size. I was like, well, at the age of 13, I wear a size 13. Mama, I'm not quite sure how you want me to feel about this, right? I, I, do I just combine them both or something like
Yeah.
that, right?
Oh my God.
But there was something that was said, and it still reigns true. And it was a comedian who said it, but I don't think they really. I think they understood what they were talking about. They said, you know what? When people tell you to act your age, how are you supposed to respond to that? Because this is the first time I've ever been this age.
Yeah.
Well, how does a person this age supposed to act? I'm not quite sure, right? But now here's something. By getting to the world of grief, and having to deal with, um, the multiple layers of trauma that came along with that, along with the addiction, along with all the challenges and struggles and everything else that came along with it, the mental battle that I've almost lost several times over. I realized that although at this age, I am just now starting to realize and put together the pieces. So it's taken me this long to understand after all these many years, and only the one time that I'm actually now starting to realize it and actually look for the help, right? So those are layers upon layers upon layers that people really don't understand, that comes that you really have to peel apart. You literally, because it's like, I can see, I can understand if we were younger and these resources were available and we were more aware of what was going on, then we can get the help that we needed. But of course, Elaine, when you get up in age, like, I'm almost 50, I'll be 50 in August, and you're a little bit older than me, and you come from a generation of baby boomers. I come from a generation of Gen X, right? Which we were raised by baby boomers. Same thing, your
Yeah.
emotions are invalid. Who cares? Go outside and play, right? Do your chores,
Yeah.
put on your play clothes, go outside and play. Don't come back till the street lights come on. All kinds of stuff that we got into. We were feral, we ran around, we got into all kinds of stuff, fights, all kinds of things, right? And they don't come back in the house if you got your butt whipped. You just had to go back outside and fight some more. All of these different things. And when we compile all the things that we never learned, um, it does make it challenging to be a productive adult, right? Because
Absolutely.
yeah, but I think the first time I tried to take my life, there was, I can say this, I was afraid to take my life, but I wasn't against someone else taking it,
Okay.
right?
Something really interesting about that, and quite often about men as well, but very, very often when you talk to people who have attempted suicide, who are on the other side, if you will, they always say they were doing it to protect everyone around them because
Mm-hmm.
they don't miss me. They don't need me. I'm a burden. I cause problems. It's always about you protecting your tribe from
Mm-hmm.
you. And never do you realize the pain you would be causing your tribe, which is why in doing the podcast, I did it as a gift because Andrea gave me the gift of knowing exactly what it felt like to be left behind. And that is a grief that has no end, that has no answers, has no reasons. I will never know. Those 4 years between her death and my accident, so many nights were spent in that cemetery, drunk or high out of my mind, but always just praying for some kind of answer. I wanted to know why. I wanted to know why. On top of it, didn't matter what else was going on. I just wanted to know why.
Mm-hmm.
And one, I don't have the right to know her why, and I understand that now. But two, I don't have the capacity to get that answer now. And going through the grief and getting to a place where I have to be okay with that was another learning curve. But I will say part of making it through losing two children, and there's now been 5 people in my life that have taken their own life. All of that was easier in some way because mentally I was 12. I didn't have the responsibility or the deeper understanding of it going on. 12-year-olds don't maintain stuff forever.
Right.
Okay, it happens in the moment and you move on. They're more like the animals in that kids can shake things off a little differently than adults. And it's not that they have any better understanding of what to do with that. It's just they have much more living to do And that takes an awful lot of time and space and breath and brain power and all of that. And sometimes things just get a little crowded out. So, in a way, that was a protective state for me. It just went on way too long. And it made things very difficult, even in business, because I always had trouble understanding how to price things or what value was. And shame to say, but my ex-husband, poor soul, presented me with a checkbook when we were first married. Well, this was great. You just signed your name and put an amount, and you gave it to people, and then you got whatever you wanted. It was awesome. So when I ran out, I just asked for another one. But by the time I'd done that 4 or 5 times, I was told, no, no, there has to be money in the bank to do that. You can't just write checks. Well, no one said that. Like, you have to give me the rules if you want me to follow them. I don't know about these rules. That is such a ridiculous statement. And I know that now. At the time, no one told me that. It was simply, here you go, you use this, and that's how you get things. Okay, fine. That's what I'll do.
Right.
And apologies to Mr. X, by the way, for
No.
spending all your money.
Now, definitely understand, but it's a true statement, right? It's such a true statement because how would I mean, if you don't tell me, then I don't know, right? You know what I'm saying? Especially if no one else has ever taught me these
Yeah.
things. I was pretty lucky, when I was going to school. They was, we learned how to write in cursive. We learned how to balance a checkbook. Now, was we always right about doing it? No, because then at that point we had credit cards. Some people got credit cards. They were like, "Oh, you gonna give me money? Oh, whatever. Oh, don't ask for it back though, because there were some things that we were never taught, right? There were some things that we just was never taught. Now,
And I was a girl, remember?
right, and well, being a
Okay.
male as well, right?
Yeah.
I think
As
it
a
goes both ways.
yeah, being in a parochial school with nuns, and there was no need for learning that. You have to understand when I went through high school, first of all, I skipped a class, so I was the youngest one in it, which was bizarre. But through high school, the nuns gave you the options. I think I could be an airline hostess, a teacher, a nurse, or you could go into the military. My father was Air Force and didn't think that was a good place for me. He didn't want me doing that. And I sure as hell did not want to be an airline hostess, a teacher, a nurse, or we were not given as baby boomers. My parents could only offer what they knew. They wanted me to go to university
Yeah,
and
yeah.
learn, but the vistas of what I could do with that were so limited. It just seemed crazy. And then once Andrea died, it just seemed, why bother? I
No.
didn't see a future. I didn't see getting married. I wasn't like the other girls who dreamed of their wedding day and whatever. I just didn't. I didn't think of any of those things.
I want to run this across you real quick and get your thoughts on this because there was something during the whole time of COVID. There was I watched this peak with the younger generation. There was a story. Young girl had been getting bullied at school, and this was right before lockdown, and her mother never even knew. Right? Her mother told the story about how she came home. She was a really happy kid, but her mother never even knew what was going on. And her mom went to work one day, and this this hurt me. This hurt me very deeply when this happened. Her mother said she came home one day, went into her daughter's room to find her hanging from her ceiling fan
Mm.
with a note that says, "Mommy, I love you so much, but I don't feel like I belong here anymore. But I do. I just want you to let you know that it's not your fault." And I'm, this is what the letter said, and people can look this up, right? People can definitely look this up. But she wrote in there, like, "I just can't do it anymore. I don't feel like I belong here. I get bullied every day at school, and no one's here to help me. And I don't want to be a burden to you. So I feel that this is the best way." And the little girl left a picture of her smiling with the letter.
Heartbreaking.
And I started thinking, I was like, man, how can such a young person feel that way and feel that this is the only way that they have out? But I've also seen this happen way too often with our younger generation as well.
Mhm.
They often feel as if unaliving themselves is the way to go about it these days.
It's social media is a double-edged sword.
Mm.
It can be the best thing in the world because it gives you community. There are places online where they have good community for young kids. But social media is also such a farce. All you see are the wonderful vacations and the lovely outfit and everything's peachy. But I learned from some very good friends early on that what you see isn't necessarily real. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter how much money they have. It doesn't matter where they live. But what you see when someone can put out a photo or a video or something that is not happening at that moment, they want to put out the best of the best. They
Mm.
want to live the life they're showing you. It doesn't mean that they are. And it's so hard for younger generations. It's hard for everybody, but it's hard for younger generations to maybe go to school and get bullied 3 out of 5 times of the week and see these other people that are in their school looking like they don't have a care in the world. They have all the high fashion and they have all the sneakers and they have the list just goes on.
Right.
But the fact is, we learn from our mistakes as we grow. You can try and tell young people that not everything is as it seems. And right at this moment, when there is such a plethora of deep fakes out there and different areas trying to change the narrative in the media and things being so unreal, it just makes it that much worse. And being able to make a point of asking the people in your tribe, all of the people, on a regular basis, are you okay?
Mm.
I think is really, really important. And I've said now for years, I have this weird thing that, let me go back one step here. Under all of the ideation and all the other stuff, I am the eternal Pollyanna. Okay, if you put me in a barn full of horse shit, I'll start digging because there's a pony in there somewhere. That's just my attitude. Always has been. That's the Pollyanna. And it's such an odd dichotomy of ideation and Pollyanna. They've had some blow up fights, let me tell you.
Oh
But
yeah.
Pollyanna often wins. Now, having said that, part of what that part of me has always done is no matter where I am, no matter who I'm with, if we walk by someone or somebody in a store and somebody doesn't look like they're having a good day, I'll make a point of saying hello. I'll make a point of telling someone, wow, that's an amazing jacket you've got on, or the brooch, or something, because I'm interested. I love fashion. I love design. I love decoration. So it's not forced, it's not made up, it's who I am. But part of that is making an effort to say hello to everybody that I cross paths with, because that might be the only hello they get that day. And it's not something that I have a tote board or I'm collecting these. It's just not. It's just for me like breathing. If there's someone there, then I have to acknowledge them.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily, people don't necessarily answer. My husband will say, 3 out of 5 people have earbuds in, they don't even hear you. That's okay. That's okay. Because some people will go a little farther and then turn around because they realized I said something to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I
about
love that.
giving them that little gift, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And on that note, and I'm definitely guilty of, if I get bad service, I will complain always, because you can't improve if you don't know what you're doing wrong.
Right.
On the other side of it, I will go above and beyond to call a manager if I've had a wonderful experience in a retail store or a restaurant, or, for instance, the Purelator lady. A few years ago, when we first got our first Chihuahua, who is a little damaged and not good with people, the Purelator lady came to the door and she brought treats. And she took about 10 minutes to try and get my Chihuahua to stop barking in her face and to try and give her a treat. And that's so above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
I was so impressed. What made it even more important, 2 weeks later, she's at the neighbor's and she came over because we have the front of the house fenced for the dog, just on the deck. 2 weeks later, she came over and brought more treats. So I called her manager and said, whatever you do, do not lose this woman. This woman is amazing. She went out of her way to make a little animal happy for absolutely no reason. She didn't even have a package for me. She didn't get anything out of it. She just did that because that's the kind of caring human she is.
Yeah.
And acknowledging that, and to someone in her life that has some authority, I'm hoping that her boss took the time to tell her, good job.
That, and you know what? We need more people like that that will go above and beyond
Yeah.
what we do. And that's the reason why we do this work, right? Like we don't think about it. We honestly don't think about it. I mean, your podcast, just your knowledge about, understanding suicidal ideation, how did you get there, and being able to walk with people through those steps to get them, to see the other side of it, because it's a messy, messy road, messy road. And, and understanding the mental challenge, but also being able to unpack that
Yeah.
to the very core, to get down to the root cause of why do you feel this way, right? And to instill, because I can only imagine being in the same room with you, right? Say to listen to you. I'll be over there like, I need some of what Elaine got. Let me just grab on to some of what she got right there, because maybe, just maybe, I just need a little something to hold on to until I can develop my own, right? And I would love to be in the same room with you to watch with how you work. And I wouldn't say anything, but I'd definitely be over there like a little student. Like I'll be like a little thief of knowledge. Ooh, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that right there, right?
I will give it to you with my whole heart.
I know, but I'm a guy. I gotta be sneaky sometimes, right? Okay, okay. Let me just rephrase that. I am a child. I'm a child, and you like a pocket full of candy, right? Sometimes I just and then I
I,
have to pretend like I'm not doing anything. That's so I can continue grabbing some more candy, right? And that's the best analogy I can use about it because for one, I don't want to disturb your groove. You know what I'm saying? But I will take a piece of that cherry candy that you got in there though. You know what you
and it
want
would be cherry too. My
That's
babe.
what I'm talking about right there. And I wouldn't mean nothing by it, but I would be that guy that would just be over there like, ooh, I'm gonna take a little bit of this. And I might take a little bit of that too, right? And I would be like that. I would be like that little puppy dog that be following you around. You know, what I'm saying hide behind the. Where's she going? Where's she going? Not saying that I will stalk you, but I will follow you. Okay, so just so
Oh,
you
that's
know.
so nice. That's so nice. But
No, that's the.
I think we should make a plan to someday meet in person.
Hey, you're not saying anything but a word, because
All right.
we got a lot of stuff to do in this world and everything. And before I let you go, because man, so I would like to do this again, of course. But if you can leave the audience with something today, what would you leave them with?
Well, two things. And the first one is this: you have to try to live in the moment. Because, in all honesty, that's all we have.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is memory. Just be right here, right now. And whatever that is, whether you're with your child, your husband, your girlfriend, your grandparents, your anything, it doesn't matter. Whomever you are with, whatever you are with, be present.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to miss it. And the other thing I always say when I sign off with people, whether it's in my email or whether it's in person, I want you to make the very most of your today every day.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. See, again, I'm like the kid taking the candy. You know what I'm saying? You like the purse full of candy. There it goes. I done got me a whole pocket full now.
I like it. I'm candy.
Yeah,
Woohoo.
yeah. So look, you got it. Look, when you can look at life in that direction, right? Life becomes this place where you're constantly receiving some of the best gifts in the world. And I don't know about everybody else, but I remember those little candies that my grandmother used to keep in a jar and sometimes in her little purse. And she would leave it open intentionally. We would go in there and get those little strawberry ones with the red wrapper and the green tops on them. I mean, those were the best ones, right? And that's what you remind me of. It's like, you know what? I want a piece of that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I find that just to be phenomenal. And now, where can people find you?
Well, actually, I'm pretty easy to find because what I didn't say, I also have a day job. I am an SEO and social media foundations specialist. So if you look up Elaine Lindsay, you will find me. There is one other Elaine Lindsay, and you'll know the difference because she's in Australia and she writes books. I'm everywhere else. Normally, my hair is straight, but this is the real hair. It's summertime and it's hot and it's humid. So you may not always see this hair, but it will be turquoise.
Oh, okay, okay. See, I like that. I love that too. And don't feel bad. This is my hair. It's
It's
mm,
lovely.
we're not gonna talk about what happened, but let's just say it's kind of hot and humid out here today.
There you go. There you go.
Well, Elaine, I want to say thank you for being on the show today. And again, we must do this again. And I do have her information, so I will be putting her information down there. You guys go check out her podcast. She is doing amazing work. sharing those stories about suicide ideation, and she's out there in the midst with everyone. So go and support her, please. And for everyone who's tuned in on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, everybody out there, thank you guys for tuning in. And we will see you guys in the next episode. As a matter of fact, I have another episode coming up very, very abruptly after this one. So we'll see you in that one. And we're going to be talking with Hearing Gaskin in that one. And again, thank you guys. Elaine, thank you again. With that being said, this is going to conclude this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. We'll see you guys in the next one. But do me a favor, if you haven't already, head over to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And if you know anyone who could benefit from the conversations that we have, please, please, please share this with them. Hopefully, these stories can be somebody else's survival guide. That's what we're here for. Now, you guys have a great day. Peace.